Hi everyone. A little while ago, I did a commentated run of a bit of Sauron as Mistweaver, and it gained a little bit of interest. And in it, I said to let me know if you wanted a full guide. This is a bit informal, but I'm gonna break down Mistweaver, um, or at least the type of Mistweaver I play. There's loads of ways to play. You can play anything from kind of a traditional healer through to pure Fistweaver. I have a bit of a kind of hybrid thing going along. So I'm just going to talk you through it, starting with the race, going through the talents, go through kind of my setup, and then we'll go to a target dummy and show you what the rotation looks like. So I'll start with race. So I play Panda, and there's a couple of reasons for this. The first is bouncy, which I think is often really overlooked as a racial ability. It's not flashy, but it is kind of useful because there's a lot of knockback and a lot of knock up effects in Midnight, a lot more than we've seen in previous expansions. Um, and when I'm tanking, but also when I'm healing, some of those can deal pretty heavy damage, and just having it is actually a pretty good thing to have. 100% more of stats from well fed. Also, it's minor, but it's constant and it's consistent. So race wise, that's why. So let's talk about talents. So I'll start with the class tree, and there's nothing that unusual here, but there's a couple of things to mention. If you're doing fist weaving, which is the Mistweaver style of healing through doing damage, you need to get the martial instincts down here, as well as the chi proficiency here. Those two together really add up. It's worth getting improved Touch of Death just as a DPS nuke. Obviously, the Frosted, 4% more damage. Save them all is a big one as well. Up to 10% healing based on the current health of your target. Doesn't sound like much, but over a full Mythic Plus, that can add up and it can save people. The free Vivify or free gift is absolutely worth having. You can go for Serene Surge on more traditional healing builds, but certainly for Fistweaver spec, where you're using Rising Sun Kick a lot, this is absolutely worth having. There's a couple of other bits I take in here that are slightly controversial. I don't find I get that much use out of Transcendence, so I don't take the talents that improve it. But I do take Ring of Peace. This is just a really useful tool for a lot of Mythic runs. And Fortifying View and then removing the cooldown or reducing the cooldown on Fortifying Brew. It's a really good defensive tool in higher keys. Other than that, there's nothing too controversial here. I go for Celerity over Chi Torpedo. I just find the distance on Chi Torpedo can put you in danger a lot, and having the extra charge on roll is actually really useful. So the class ones are fairly standard and cookie cutter, and there's nothing there that's too unusual. But over on the Mistweaver tree, things can get a little bit more unusual. So there's a couple of things to bear in mind here. That the first is that a lot of the damage translates to healing through ancient teachings. So Dagger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Jade Firestomp, and Crackling Jade Lightning heal your party for a percentage of the damage done. There's various other passives here. The Crane Style is probably the main one, which we'll come on to. But if we take a quick look, you have to take Enveloping Mist, it's given to you. And then you have Thunder Focus T, which gives you a really short cooldown ability. So when you take it in combination with a talent later down the tree, it empowers your next two spells, any of Enveloping Mist, Renewing Mist, or Rising Sun Kick. Almost always you do this with Rising Sun Kick. And it means because it ends up resetting the cooldown of it, you can actually get 3 in 5 seconds, which is a huge damage output and hence a huge healing output. We have Mana Tea, standard Mana Tea, and then we have Life Cocoon, which is our kind of single target tank protect. And here's Crane Style. So Rising Sun Kick kicks up a Gust of Mist. And Spinning Crane Kick have a chance to kick up a Gust of Mist. Now, if you have Spinning Crane Kick and you're hitting a huge number of targets, maybe 3 or more, it's going to pump out a lot of healing very quickly. So this kind of innocuous, what looks like a minor throughput talent on the left, actually ends up healing parties for a lot. Revival. So the difference between Revival and Restoral, by the way, is Revival takes off magic. It dispels magic effects. So if you're doing something where that might be a bad thing, it might get you killed, which can happen. You want to take Restoral instead. We don't take Healing Elixir. It would be a nice survivability increase, but we need the points elsewhere. So moving down a tier, Absorb Amount on Life Cocoon. So either of these are perfectly viable. I don't find I particularly have any mana issues, so I'm not bothered about Refreshment. I just want a bigger Absorb. Uplifted Spirits just reduces the cooldown on Revival, and it is, especially in quite a lot of lower keys where you need to do the Dispel for Xalatath's effect. It's a really useful tool to have it, Boss does a mechanic, you can't heal everybody up in time, the Healing Absorb comes in, you can just Revival and move on and forget about it. So Way of the Crane, this is really the talent that turns Mistweaver into a DPS into healing class. Tiger Palm strikes twice, so you build up 2 Teachings of the Monastery stacks. Blackout Kick strike multiple targets, and Spinning Crane Kick heals nearby allies for 340. 340% is a lot of the damage done. This is the talent that when you get it really starts turning you into a damage outputter. Mana Tea, it's worth having it just to channel faster. There are times when you're getting down to 30-20% mana, but you've got 2 or 3 seconds. You can just throw out half your stacks of Mana Tea and get yourself some mana back. And Zen Pulse is worth taking. You quite often find you are getting out a lot of Renewing Mists on your party, so Zen Pulse procs quite a lot, and it's absolutely worth having. Moving down again, Evoke Chi is just a cool 1-minute healing cooldown that kicks out a lot of healing. And over here, Rapid Diffusion. This is another really key talent because it makes Rising Sun Kick just throw out a Renewing Mist. So by chaining them back to back again and again, you're covering your group with this really long-term heal over time effect, which over a long fight especially just adds up to so much healing. So moving down a tier, we've got Lotus Infusion, just a standard throughput improvement talent. Dancing Mist, which means your Renewing Mist when it spawns on somebody can just split to 2 people again, standard throughput talent. Celestial Harmony, so when you press the button to bring your crane, it pops an Absorb Shield on your party. Really, really useful. And it also means you immediately get 4 stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, so you can pop it, press Blackout Kick, and you'll get your Rising Sun Kick back. Mist Wrap, really just a filler point, but absolutely worth having. And you've got Pool of Mist, which gives you a load of a lot more Rising Sun Kicks and a lot more Renewing Mists out there. Gifts to the Celestials just reduces the cooldown and duration, which makes it less of a big cooldown, more of a rotational tool. You can go to Jade Bond if you're not going to need it as much. And then we have, so a lot of Mistweavers don't take this talent, Morning Breeze. This makes Rising Sun Kick scale with your mastery. And it also gets its cooldown reset whenever you Thunder Focus Tea, which is really, really powerful. It's what means you can Thunder Focus Tea and then get several off in a row, and it does substantial amounts of damage and hence substantial amounts of healing. Focus Thunder is what makes Thunder Focus affect 2 abilities. And then we take Shaluin's Gift, which isn't always included in this kind of build, but it is such a big healing nuke, effectively on such a small cooldown for a lot of clouds, that it's worth taking. So we have Jadefire Teachings, which means your damage to healing throughput is increased by a lot, and actually 8% stamina is nothing to sniff at either. And then the one below it means your Rising Sun Kick puts out a Jade Firestorm, which does a pretty sizable chunk of damage and converts that through to healing. Over here we have Secret Infusion. Now you'll normally be using it on Rising Sun Kick, which means you'll get Verse. So after you click Thunder Focus Tea, whatever you do next gives you a small stat increase. This is pretty much just a blanket Verse increase. And Dance of Chi-Ji is really important. So randomly, you will get a proc, which will light up a Spinning Crane Kick, and you can press that and get a lot of damage and hence a lot of healing, especially if there's a couple of targets around. Mist Line increases the healing of Renewing Mist on the lowest health target by a huge amount. It's just a throughput increase, and it means if you've got one target dropping, there's a little bit more healing going out onto them. This syncs up really well with Save Them All. And then we've got the talents which increase Shaluin's Gift. So Cloud every 4 seconds, and it heals 2 additional allies. So in Mythic Plus, this is just an incredibly powerful tool for topping your group back up really, really quickly. And then finally, we've got Rising Mist, which means your Rising Sun Kick extends your HOTS on targets. So when you put all of these together, what you get is this really kind of high output, high throughput build. So if we look into hero talents, you can go Master of Harmony. It is really good for throughput, but I find it more difficult to play because being a Mistweaver is about managing resources, and it takes away a resource, and that resource is the first one here, which is Celestial Conduit, which is 90-second cooldown is relatively short, which means in a Mythic Plus you're going to have this up maybe every other pack. And it does a substantial amount of healing, but importantly it also does a substantial amount of damage. You can move while you cast it, and it increases your movement speed. So it's got a lot of bonuses in one. It's just a really safe click. Teachings of the Monastery from here just means you're getting more damage, and you're going to get more Rising Sun Kicks. And this build is just maximising your Rising Sun Kick casts. Chi-Ji, this is a filler talent, but it just means you've got a bit more movement speed. It can be useful on fringe boss fights, but it's not huge. And then here, you heal for 10% of your maximum health when you activate Celestial Conduit, so it just gives you a bit of self-healing. It's nothing major. And then these are the main ones. The Courage of the White Tiger. Every now and again, Zuen will pop up and claw something for a bit of damage, and that translates to a bit of healing. Great. But when that happens, you then get the ability to have a half cast time enveloping mist on someone. It can be yourself. You can even Thunder Focus Tea into using it if you need it instantly, and that gives your whole party an albeit small absorb bubble. But over a long fight, especially, those absorb bubbles really help, and they really add up. And then Stampede of the Ancients means that absorb is 4 times as big on your primary target. So you can get it on the tank, get them a huge absorb bubble, and splash that absorb out to your whole party. Coming down here, Rising Sun Kick damage, no brainer. Celestial Conduit's healing and damage is increased by 100% when it tries to tingle target. This just makes it a little bit more functional in a boss fight. Inner Compass, it's effectively a 0.5% stat gain on each of those. Is a good way to think about it. The only one which has any rotational impact is maybe Serpent's Dance for Mastery, because that extra 2% damage on Rising Sun Kick could be a little bit, but whatever. Heart of the Jade Serpent, Thunder Focus Tea effectively just makes everything else cool down a little bit quicker. That's brilliant. And finally, and these are just fillers based off that, but finally we have Unity Within, which means when Celestial Conduit ends, it casts this whole line down here. Really useful. So yeah, that's the breakdown. So the way I have all this keybound, and I'll explain this as we fly down to a training dummy down here. There we go. Where's the damage one? You're tanking your damage. There we go. Tiger Power 1. And we can just use this to build up stacks. So we're building up stacks of Teachings of the Monastery, which means our Blackout Kick is going to hit a lot of times. You can see that happen there, and it splashes to additional targets. And there's the one coming out clawing someone. So this is going to pop our proc here of Enveloping Mist. We get a very short cast time one, which also pops out the absorb. So it's an absorb for 20k, which is, you know, that's not an insubstantial amount. And this is kind of your low damage rotation. You know, this is popping out some filler healing to your group, just like that. Now, our big hitting cast here is Rising Sun Kick. And if we pop Thunder Focus, we get several with a Chi Stomp, just like that. So we get 3 in a row, and we get a proc of Spinning Grain Kick, which means we can just dance around like that. The proc you can see there is from Schluin's Gift, so we've got a full 10 Clouds of Mist, and we have the ability to instant cast it because we've pressed Rising Sun Kick. So when we do, you can see it heals for quite a lot. And once again, we can pop Thunder Focus T. It's a really, really short cooldown, and we get 3 in very short order on Rising Sun Kick. And the Dance of GG procs quite a lot. You know, it's not something you necessarily rely on, but it's going to happen. It's really useful to top a group up. So in terms of cooldowns, what have we got? Well, we've got Invoke GG. So he'll turn up, it pops out Chi Cocoons. You can see the healing going on this target here. And you know, every time I'm pressing any kind of cast, the healing is coming out. Just like that. We've got Live Cocoon, which I can only really cast on myself here, but it's a massive absorb shield. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? There it is. 453,000. So it's pretty much my health bar. It's going to be most of a tank's health bar, and it just gives them breathing room, especially at the start of a difficult pull. And we then have Celestial Conduit, so movement speed increase, but just a huge amount of pump healing. And if I go to the tanking dummy here, you can see I'm able to keep myself alive quite easily. There we go. Yeah, man. Stop trying to hit me and hit me. And it's pretty easy to keep myself alive. So yeah, that's a basic guide. And the only other cooldown that we mentioned is Revival. You know, I've been explaining those few things. Stuff has come off cooldown. It's really fluid. It's a really fluid rotation. It's really fun to play. It can be absolutely terrifying, but you have so many tools that I find it a really engaging specialization. I would highly advise you try it. I'll be making more commentative videos. You know, my Mythic Plus rating here is it's 2,800. I'm kind of gradually been making my way up through the low teens of Mythic Plus, but yeah, I hope that's been helpful. It's a really informal guide. I might make a flashier one with higher production values if there's call for it, but yeah, let me know if you'd like any more information. All right.